Hello, music friends. I hope you are having a wonderful week. I also hope that you guys all had a great Mother's Day if you were celebrating last weekend. So, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the real life of musicians who are moms or parents. So, normally when I do a video, I try to clean up a little bit. I try not to have my baskets of laundry sitting out, but these are the piles of things that I have not yet gotten to. And yes, it is 6:40 p.m. and I haven't made the bed yet, so let's face it, it's probably not going to happen today. I did have on makeup this morning, but most of it has kind of wiped off from me going like this all day as I teach young children the joys of foreign language and music. So anyway, I think for many of us, we think there's this perfect ideal of how our professional life will work, how that will balance with our personal lives. And in reality, what I've listened to on other podcasts is that it's always a constant balancing act between trying to keep up with your regular everyday things, the mundane activities of laundry and dishes, and then how do we also keep up with our musical activities or whatever your profession happens to be. And I've learned that a lot of it is improvisation and the ability to go with the flow, which is contrary to some of the musician background where you want everything to be just so and fit into 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is a certain amount of that you do have to keep your household running, to be playing music in a professional way. So again, lots of parallels between life and music here. But there also is a certain amount that you have to be flexible because life doesn't always fit into your perfectly contrived boxes. And for example, in my children's development, they're still both young, but even within the 7 years that I've been a mom, I've seen so many different stages. I went from working at a university before I had my daughter to staying home, and she had some health complications at the beginning, so I ended up needing to stop working at the university, but I was able to keep teaching my violin studio, but I did have to take a maternity leave. Coming back after that, trying to reset. How does that schedule work when you're trying to feed an infant every couple of hours and trying to squeeze in lessons here and there? And it's always a juggling act. At first, I was able to have my daughter in some of the lessons, especially if I had some parents that maybe were willing to help with her during the lesson. But eventually, it became more difficult. And we actually moved when my daughter was young, moved to where we are now in Springfield, Illinois. And at that point, I did end up deciding to hire a sitter for when I was teaching lessons. And that was very helpful. I was able to have a sitter come in who was a high schooler while I would teach, and that made a big difference. And then when I would take gigs, my husband would usually watch her when I would be playing. Well, over time, then I had my son. And when he was little, we still had a sitter coming in. But as you all know, a couple years ago, the giant pandemic hit, and my sitter was not able to come at that point. So many of us had to adjust to working with our children present. And fortunately, that wasn't a totally new concept for me, but that improvisatory nature of how to make work and home life balance was very new to a lot of people, and I think it kind of rocked a lot of professionals. How do you keep that life going while also managing a family and home? And if any of you guys have thoughts or how you managed, I'd love to hear in some of the comments because there's not really a one-size-fits-all. My kids ended up being old enough that my daughter was able to kind of help some with my son by that point, and they are at the age where sometimes it does mean TV watching, which is what's happening right now while I record this. But I have been really glad that I've been able to keep up some measure of music even during these young stages. I may not be at the playing level that I had been before, but unfortunately due to an injury, I had already had to learn how to improvise in that nature as well, where you can't always play the amount of hours you want per day, whether it's your body saying no or your family life saying no. But that doesn't mean you have to throw in the towel either and quit playing or being involved in music altogether. Find those areas or those genres or those moments when you can invest a little time into your passion. And I think that that can help fuel you even on days that feel mundane when you have this artistic outlet. And each new stage of parenthood is a new dilemma. Now my kids are more going into the school age phase, and I'm trying to figure out how to work with them and when to practice with them, especially my daughter who's in school full time now. My son is part time. But when to get in her practice time when she's not in school, and how to help her develop as a musician. And that daily work is very imperative, and we do want her to learn how to have that discipline, which comes into play in a lot of areas of life, whether that's discipline in your music craft, discipline in learning at school, or discipline in running your household. And so many of these skills are transferable. But the big thing is also keeping that flexibility, that even if we didn't get to practicing today, that doesn't mean that we should throw in the towel. We come back to it again tomorrow. Even if you didn't get your bed made today, maybe you can try again tomorrow with a fresh new day. And interestingly enough, we musicians of the 21st century are not the first ones to have to juggle childcare and child rearing with our musical profession. Believe it or not, Bach had a ton of children, and so he had to work on his compositions and his writing and his teaching and managing church music, and he was also a father to many, many children. Now, granted, his wife, I'm sure, did a lot of the caretaking, but it still could be distracting to have so many little ones around. And Beethoven, who was never actually a father himself, had to help raise his young nephews for a period of time. And some of the historians do say that that was difficult for him to balance, helping with his nephews and also keeping up with his composing life. But it does show it's not an all or nothing. And there's different seasons of life where you may be able to do more with your music, other seasons where you may not be able to do as much, and that's okay. Our musical journey is a lifelong journey. It's not just for one phase. So I hope this was helpful. Again, no one size fits all in this case, so please leave comments and let me know, how do you balance your professional and personal life. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.